Hello, today is May 8th. It's a Tuesday. This is Jennifer. Today I'm going to take a look at the plants underneath bug and jade tents today. So I've pretty much been leaving these plants alone, letting them grow as they please. They all have drip irrigation, so I haven't really worried about watering. But I see now that there's a weed growing in one of these planters, so I need to give this part of my garden some attention. I've been growing mostly determinate tomatoes and peppers underneath the bug and shade tents. So this first planter has a tomato called Reika. Reika is a variation of the Momotaro. It's supposed to be a shorter, bushier version of Momotaro. So we'll see how that goes. I have some Momotaro in other parts of the yard. I have a golden Momotaro and then a classic Momotaro. So this one is Reika. It has some leaves, so I'll give those a tickle today. This plant is surrounded by 4 bell pepper plants. I think 2 of them are purple and 2 of them are yellow. They're doing very well so far. So I like to put the determinate tomatoes and the bell peppers into the bug and shade plants because they seem to grow best in this environment. So the leaves look very nice. The tomato leaves are nice and flat, and everything seems to grow nicely under these bug and shade tents. But again, there's a space limitation, so the biggest one only goes to about 4.5 feet tall. So you have to make sure that the plants that you plant under here are gonna fit. So this is Reika and her 4 bell pepper plants. And then next planter under this first tent is a Silvery Fir Tomato. So this is my second time growing it. It's doing much better than last year. Last year's plant was long and spindly, and I only got 1 very sour tomato out of it. But this year I'm hoping that they'll taste a lot better. The plant certainly looks a lot better. There are lots of flowers all over it. The leaves are delicate, but they're not as sparse as the plant I grew last year. So I'm very hopeful. And then with it are 4 bell pepper, 4 pepper types. So 2 yellow monster, which are here and here. This yellow monster is growing very tall, so I'm a little worried about it. Hopefully it won't exceed 4 feet. And then over here is a Beaver Dam Pepper. This is a mildly hot pepper, and behind it is a, I think it's called a Cuneo Pepper. So that's the one back there. It's kind of mixed in with the tomato plant. So I'm going to give these tomato flowers a tickle, check for flowers on the peppers, and give those a tickle too. So again, Silvery Fir, yellow monster, and Cuneo, and the Beaver Dam Pepper. Under the second tent, there are 2 ensalada tomatoes. So these are not supposed to get any taller than about 4 feet, and it looks like they're doing just that. They're staying very short and bushy. Lots of flowers on them, so they're getting ready to put out all their fruit. Here's some fruit nubs here that I've just started. Over here's a Bison Tomato. This one is not supposed to get above 3 feet. And in here is an Alma Paprika pepper, a fish pepper in here. And behind there is a patio baby eggplant. So if we can get a better view over here. There we go. And it's starting to flower as well. So some of these all the tomatoes I had to stake because they had multiple branches and they were being weighed down. I figured they'd be weighed down even more by the fruit. So I went ahead and gave them some support. I just put the support in for the bison today because it started leaning over onto the soil. Over here in the pots is a ringleader jalapeno hybrid. It's not doing so well so far. It's pretty small. I'm not sure what it needs, but I'll go ahead and give it some fertilizer today. And then next to it is another fish pepper. And this one's starting to show some of the variegated leaves here. I have never gotten an actual pepper off of a fish pepper plant, so hopefully this one will be the charm here and I'll finally get a pepper. It'd be nice. I got these fertilizer sticks on sale. They're on sale a lot at the big box store, so just pick them up when they're on sale. And these are fertilizer spikes, and these are specialized for tomatoes. I also use them on eggplants and peppers, so I'm going to go ahead and give these two plants. Oh, there's a third plant back here. I think this is a Zavory. Give all these plants a couple fertilizer sticks each and see if they get any better. Usually the fertilizer sticks work really well, so hopefully these guys will get what they need out of them. And under the last two tents I have kind of a mess going on. So there was a plant that was on a stand that when I pulled the tent off fell over and crushed these two peppers, so I'm going to have to tend to them now. And then this Brazilian Starfish here grew too tall for its tent, so I'm going to go ahead and top it and pull out that weed and stake the tomato. I think the tomato behind it is a bell. Oh, excuse me, pepper behind it is a bell pepper. So I'm going to work with this now. So sometimes I forget my past life as a product engineer, but today I remembered something. So I'm having trouble keeping these drip lines attached. And I thought about it a little bit, but what's going on here is that these are too stiff. So I went into the kitchen and boiled some water. And what I'm going to do is dip the ends of this in the hot water for a couple minutes. So let me turn this off and I'll come back. Hopefully this has been sitting long enough and be off the stove water. So let's give it a try now. Hopefully the plastic will soften. Ooh, I can't do this and hold the camera at the same time. And there you go. It's on nice and tight, and then as the plastic cools down, it will conform to the little nozzle there and hopefully form a very tight seal. So that's my little tip. Just boil some water. I used here a little silicone measuring thing because at least for the time it took me to get out from the kitchen to my backyard, it was cool enough to touch. Now it's not cool enough to touch. But as long as you get the water to boiling, there should be enough heat in that water to go ahead and soften up the plastic on these drip lines. So you leave it in the water for maybe 2-3 minutes, let it soften up, and then you should be able to push the drip lines onto the nozzle here easier, just like I did, and to completely get it on. So I'm probably going to go around the yard now and reattach these drip lines with using this method. Hooray! I got rid of the leaks. At least from these two. This one here is the drip hose, so it's supposed to go ahead and drip and leak. It waters the strawberry carpet. But anyhow, yay, I did it. I'm happy. So to end the day, I rearranged things a little bit to accommodate the plants that aren't doing so well. So I think that Brazilian Starfish and the Atlas Tomato need more sun than the tent provides, so I'll give them a week and see how they do. The reason why I use these tents is because we have very high UV here in Southern California, so you need to protect the plants from UV. Plant leaves will scald, they'll burn, and sometimes the plant growth will stunt. The other reason is to cool the plants down some, so it doesn't get into the 90s and 100s here a lot. We've already had days in the 90s since the beginning of the year. and in July through October, sometimes even November, we'll have temperatures up into the hundreds. The other reason is that these bug and shade tents do provide some protection from the wind, which recently we've been having everyday high winds. And the last reason is that they basically can provide somewhat of a controlled environment for the plants to grow in. So some humidity maintenance, some helps keep the water in the soil so it doesn't evaporate so fast by providing some shade to the soil. So that's why I use them when I can, and that's why I'm using them for these determinate plants over here, because they're not going to outgrow the bug and shade tents. Same thing with the peppers. And that's all for today.